Okay, so coming to the next markers is a AFLP marker, that is amplified fragment length polymorphism. This marker is nowadays it's a principle which now all NGS library been constructed based on the principle of AFLP only. So you can see when you read the AFLP, you can get how it is been highly useful nowadays, how the NGS people are using this library based on this technique. The AFLP was first developed in 1990 by Keijin, and it is a combination of RFLP and PCR techniques. You already, some of you read in your previous courses. So what the point I want to share is that here the AFLP, what we are going to, here there are 4 steps in that, mainly in the case of, please put off the mic if somebody is, okay. So the AFLP techniques involve 4 steps. First, the DNA is digested with restriction enzyme. Second is adapters are ligated to the DNA fragments. Then third step is subset of DNA digested fragments are amplified. We call it as pre-amplification. Then second step is selective amplification and polymorphism detection. So this is the 4 steps where AFLP is working. So I can directly go to the principle in which AFLP is working. So the total genomic DNA is digested with restriction enzyme. When they digest with the restriction enzyme, they use 2 kind of restriction enzyme. One is EcoR1 and MSC1. So some will be rare cutter, some will be frequent cutter. This is the combination that people use. As most frequently used is EcoR1 MSC1. So when you digest the DNA with frequent and rare cutter, you can get here fragments of different sizes, smaller size and bigger size. So you can get a different size of fragments in the AFL, the digested fragments. So first step, you have to digest the genomic DNA with restriction enzyme. So after digestion is restriction enzyme, then you have to go for the next step, ligation of adapters. So this is the second step. So the digestion is the first step. Second step is ligation of adapters. If you want to ligate the adapters, so here you have to use the adapters are having the sequence of both EcoR1. If you use EcoR1 MSC1 combination of enzyme, you have to select the adapter sequence for EcoR1 and MSC1 restriction site which have. So the EcoR1 MSC1 adapters are used. Then if you ligate with adapters, so those restricted fragments now ligated with adapters, then these adapters being pre-amplified with 1 base primer. So this primer which amplify only the selective region, that means the whole genomic DNA being restricted with selective restriction enzyme. Those restricted fragments are ligated with adapters. So only those sequences they want to amplify. So this pre-amplification primer, which consists of EcoR1 MSC1 adapter sequences along with 1 specific base, additionally 1 base added. So by that we selectively amplify pre-amplify the total genomic DNA. So the adapter ligated fragments. So by that we amplify this region. Those fragments are selectively amplified. Then after the pre-amplification, we have second step. Second step is selective amplification process. In that, the selective amplification primer, apart from the pre-amplification primer, this contains EcoR1 MSC1 site with the adapter sequence and 1 pre-amplification primer sequence, along with you have 2 bases selective amplification primer. So the primer which contain these sequences, so it selectively amplify the regions. By that you are getting the AFLP pattern, which looks like we will get a lot of alleles because we use restriction enzyme and we are targeting throughout the genomic region. So, and also we amplify those regions. So by that you are getting, starting from 50 base pair to even 5 kb size, you can get a lot of fragments. So these fragments can only be analyzed not by simple agarose gel. We have to go for UR denaturing page. So that we call it a sequencing JT. Those days that people use big gel apparatus that is being used for sequencing purpose. So by manual sequencing, gel-based assay, they use those gel plates nowadays not at all available in many of the labs. So these plates can accommodate from 50 base pair to 5 kb big size fragments. These are larger size fragment. These are also smaller size fragment. And also number of polymorphism is very high. This case, when you use the AFLP markers, number of polymorphic loci you are getting is very high. So this way, the people used during 2000, 90s and 2000, the people used the AFLP technique is one of the key technique for fingerprinting and also do the fine mapping and also map construction of linkage map. I also happen to work on the AFLP technology where you can see the paper theoretical applied genetic 2004. We constructed the high density linkage map in case of barley for brittleness gene by using AFLP marker. So this is a very nice marker system. But nowadays, because of automation, other difficulty, the people, the usage of AFLP is getting reduced. The problem is, these have 4 steps. You have to start with the genomic DNA isolation. You have to do restriction digestion. That will take 1 day, will be overnight digestion. After that, you have to do pre-amplification. Then after that, you have to do selective amplification. So these steps, takes long time. But once you do pre-amplify the DNA, then selective amplification, you can use lot of 3 base combination, different kind of base combinations, base pair combination. You can amplify selective regions. But these 3 steps need a lot of time. And again, this having the AFLP kit, which has been Invitrogen or specific company, one kit is around, you can able to do 64 samples. This kit contain more, even 10 years back, the cost of the kit is 1 lakh. So it's very costly. And one time, if you failed in the digestion reaction, or if you have failed in the adapter ligation process, your total reaction is failed. So the kit will be wasted. So you have to properly digest the DNA and properly you have to ligate the adapters. So these 2 steps are very critical. Then only the people, have a lot of steps, and also the cost of the AFLP technology is very high. And you need run a sequencing gel, that is big polyacrylamide gel. And also this gel has been stained with silver staining. So the silver staining process itself, it takes half a day to develop the gel in the silver staining method. So that again, a lengthy process, silver staining method. And running the sequencing gel also, you have to use urea denaturing page in a big gel plate. You have stacking gel, you can separating gel, and you have to run the sample. So it takes whole day for developing a 1 plate. So because of this difficulty, people nowadays the people not using the AFLP unless special cases they people using. Okay, so I already told you RFLP markers are ruled 1 time, and then PCR based other markers being used, and after that combination of PCR and RFLP is used as a AFLP technique. This also have certain period it's been very highly used. Then the people, once the sequence information is getting accumulated, the people start using the microsatellite markers, that is simple sequence repeat markers. Like here, it is important you should remember that whole genome, when you sequence it, you have very limited genes available. You cannot say that all the sequences are having the genes, functional genes. The rest of some are non-coding sequences, sometimes the junk DNA. Earlier people thought it is useless, but now it's have a lot of information it's revealing. So here, the sequences, the repetitive sequences which is being present in the genome, we are using as an advantage. We are using as for developing a marker that we call it as simple sequence SSR marker or simple sequence repeat marker. So this is any genome you can species you can see that the genome which contain lot of SSRs. So there's repeats you may be seeing the repeats, some centromere region, some telomere regions. So you have a lot of big repeats in the centromere and telomere regions also. But there are repeats which mini satellites, microsatellites, macrosatellites, which are dispersed all along the chromosomes, all along the genome. So every places you can see this kind of mini satellite, microsatellite, and this one available. So these repeats we are using. How using these repeats as a marker for our advantages? Here, this case, we use that any chromosomes, when you sequence it, you'll get full sequence information you are getting. This sequence you can see whenever you look on the sequences that there is a standard pattern of repeats. For example, TTA. These kind of repeats continuously present. For example, TTA continuously present 3 times, 5 times, 10 times. So this is unique. After that, followed by unique sequences. So this is all characterized repeats. This can be used for as developing a SSR markers. So what is the logic behind in developing a SSR marker? Because every repeats are present in a, please put off the mic. So please, when you look on the microsatellites which is present in the genome, it is unique to individuals. Whenever the lower order organism to higher order organisms, when the organisms is going in the evolution process in the higher order, the lot of repeats are accumulated. So when the repeats are accumulated, you can see the repeat sequences present in the genome. You can analyze it. Every individuals have different pattern of repeats. So some, for example, TTA, 3 base repeats, one individual have 5 repeats, another individual have 10 repeats. It is unique to their organism. So that is the characteristics which want to use it to differentiate the varieties. If 10 repeats, one particular individual, if another individual have 15 repeats, so this will be used for differentiating these two individuals. So that's why this picture also we depicted that somehow this each arrow have 1 repeat. So some individual very less number of repeats, some have more repeats. So like that, number of repeats vary when you look on the sequences. Okay. So for example, this case, flanking region, you are designing the marker primers which flanking the microsatellite region, that is simple sequence repeat region. So we design the primer. Plant A have, for example, this case 2, 4, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 repeats, 7 blocks. 7 repeats. This have more than 7 repeats, maybe 10 repeats. So plant A have 7 repeats, plant B have more repeats, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 repeats. So when these two are two different repeats, so when you design a primer, because flanking the repeats have unique sequences. So we put the primer, forward and reverse primer, which flanking the region, which have unique sequences. So if you put this region, then this primer can amplify all the plant A or plant B. When it amplify, the repeat, a small number of repeats, the plant pieces have very less size of the fragment. The bigger repeats have more number of repeats. The plant B have bigger size amplicon. So the amplicon size is, it will be bigger size amplicon, smaller size amplicon. So you can easily differentiate number of repeats. So sometimes if this repeats, and also when you design the primer, we leave some regions nearing to the repeat region. So when it amplify, the flanking region we leave for 50 bases each side. So this 100 base, both the side upside. Then another thing you can, in this case, the repeats maybe 7 repeats, if the 2 base pair repeats 14. So 114 base pair it will amplify. This case maybe 124 base pair it will amplify. So the bigger size and smaller size. So by simple agarose gel assay, you can differentiate these two fragments. This shows clearly that how, for example, plant A, plant B. So the plant A have more number of repeats, plant B smaller size repeat. So it produces allele, a bigger size allele, the smaller size allele, the heterozygote have both alleles. So this is a clear dominant type of codominant type of markers. So this can easily differentiate heterozygotes from the homozygote. So this way the SSR markers used. So this being used for nowadays all fingerprinting mapping purpose. This is the one example where we did recently the sorghum fingerprinting. So the varieties like K8 and K8 and K12 and TNS648. This is a variety which is going to be released shortly. So we want to differentiate. So if, for example, these two varieties have two different type of allele. For example, this color, for example, these particular repeats are smaller size, it's a bigger size repeat. So you can have the allele, it's bigger size. This is still more number of repeats are high. So you'll get a different type of alleles when you screen your varieties. Similarly, you have smaller size, with the little bigger number of repeats are high, still there are number of high. So you can easily differentiate the varieties based on the number of repeats which is present in the variety. So we can easily fingerprint for the newly released, newly developed culture which are differ from the existing culture, by that the people use for DNA fingerprinting purpose. The SSR markers are very commonly and routinely used, because if you know that already the repeat sequences are already correct. For example, sorghum genome, already the markers like XTXP, the markers they developed XTXP, this is available in the sorghum genome databases. So you can download the sequences. It's again these SSRs locations are known. the primer sequence are given, and what is the standard allele sequence. Everything nowadays, every crops they've been optimized. So you can download the sequence and you can order the primer, and when the primer comes, you can do the PCR. You can see that what is the standard allele size, what is the size of allele you are getting. You can easily differentiate. That's why the people using SSR markers very frequently in many labs for DNA fingerprinting purpose or the mapping purpose. Okay, so with this, I will stop the presentation on the markers, principles, and applications. So next class we'll go for other kinds like mapping population and map construction. So the bottom line this class I want to tell you is, whenever you use any kind of DNA based markers, you should know the history of markers, how the people earlier days, how they used, and how the markers are changing during the timeline. Okay, when you ask me, sir, at present, what kind of markers are very common and what markers we can use it? The SSR marker still it is ruling because it have quite advantages, because you don't need any NGS sequencer or big sequencing facility. If you know which region you want to target, if the already sequenced genomes, the SSR markers location on the repeats, where the SSR located in the individual chromosomes, and what is the primer sequence, what is the annealing temperature, what is the PCR condition, what is the expected standard size. If it is a sequenced genome, for example, if rice genome is sequenced in Nipambare, what is the allele size? What is the size? For example, maize B73 is the maize imberline sequence maize genome. So what is the size of the PCR product for particular SSR you are getting also given in the database. So it is easy, you can download the primer sequence and you can order the forward and reverse primer, and you can do straight away go for PCR and you check what is the allele size of your particular variety. If you take set of varieties, then you can say how standard variety, what is allele size, what is another variety, the newly bred culture, it have variation. Or it is monomorphic. The particular region is common for both the varieties. If it is very closely related variety, then it is monomorphic. There is no difference in the region. If there is a polymorphic, there is a difference in this region with regard to repeat sequences. So that's why people easily using the SSR for fingerprinting purpose now. NPPGR, National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resource, or PPVFRE, that is Farmers Varietal Protection Authority. Whenever the people develop new variety, you have to submit the sequences for the varietal registration. Earlier, you can use only morphological descriptors. Now they are asking for the varietal fingerprint. So the people now using the SSR markers to fingerprint the variety. This variety is different from the existing. They developed a new variety is different from existing variety. Apart from morphological character, they clearly given the foolproof information that the DNA profile is different. So the SSR markers are being used for the fingerprint, developing a fingerprint and submit for the varietal registration, new varietal registration. So the SSR fingerprint is a foolproof one because we know the genomic region where the SSR located, which chromosome, what is the specific location on the chromosome in terms of physical map, in terms of genetic map, and also many SSR markers are validated in the maps. They construct the linkage map and they show the Mendelian segregation, how this marker are segregating. So that's why the available information on SSR marker is very huge on the crops, the model crops, and also most of the serial genomes which are sequenced, they given the SSRs. So this SSR, very small lab, if you have the PCR machine, if you have the simple agarose gel, you can run the PCR product and you can able to document and show them. So this is the key method where many people try to use SSR for the fingerprinting. But the next stage is, now if you want to develop more and more marker and saturate the map and very high density map people want to construct, now people going for SNP based markers. So we'll have discussion on SNP markers in later classes. So still SSR not only used for fingerprinting, which also used for construction of linkage maps. So the linkage maps also can be constructed by first initially studying polymorphism between parents and screen in the population, and you can use this marker data for constructing linkage map. Many of the linkage maps so far constructed still using the SSR markers. Nowadays, SNP markers are coming to the picture, and because of more markers, additional markers can be added in the existing linkage map. Because every 100 base pair you can get a SNP, so millions of SNPs can be developed and used. So this is what the markers which been currently in the market and how they are using. So you can ask that whether RAPD is still useful. Yes, it has some new species and tree species or unexploited species or varieties. Crops, you can use these RAPD markers to generate them fingerprint to show the difference or diversity. That is also very limited people are using RAPD also. So with this, I will stop my discussion today. Thank you for patient listening. Thank you.